I'm just going to come out and say it. Certified pedophile.
Oh, whoa, all right. You are braver than Kendrick.
Yeah, welcome to Get to the Hook. I figured we should just get right to the hook.
Wop, 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 wop.
Yes, I'm your co-host, Charles Latibaudiere.
And I'm your co-host, Eric Colley.
So I can say the words certified pedophile. There's nothing wrong or illegal in using those words. It's when you attach it to a particular person that it becomes a problem, as we all saw play out on Super Bowl Sunday. We're not going to replay all of that and go through it with you, but just want to pick out winners and losers maybe from this. And then what we're really here for is to go through Super Bowl halftime performers, winners, who was great, who was mediocre,
the great, the okay,
who should
the
never be invited
peas.
back again.
And who should be invited back?
Yes, who should be invited
One
back?
particular person, I think. And
we're going to call out some names, but let's get to this past Sunday and the big moment that everyone was waiting for. And what I loved about, aside from, the whole performance was great. It was Kendrick doing what Kendrick does, right? This is kind of what we expect, where there's a lot more meaning in the visuals, and there were so many visuals. I think you really do have to go back and watch it like 3 or 4 times.
I think a lot of people who didn't like it, and that's the thing, it's very divided. People think it was brilliant or people think it was complete trash. I think because a lot of it is, like you said, there's like little Easter eggs and cultural references and symbolism, and everything was so very, very deliberate about everything he did. It was performance art.
Yes.
Having Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam and everything about it was an artistic statement, which is why I agree with you. I think it was brilliant.
Right.
But
for the masses,
it's subtlety and nuance that maybe doesn't work at the halftime show, where it's all
14
about
minutes.
it's spectacle and crowd-pleasing songs and fireworks, and usually that's what it is.
Right.
And that's not really what he did.
And I got to hand it to him that he stuck to, and Rock Nation was like, go ahead, do your thing. Like, he stuck to doing what Kendrick does and wasn't going to say, all right, I'll just change it all because it's got to be in 14 minutes. He still made it visually entertaining, but to your point, it's not what it normally is, which is just big hits and fireworks and things like that. So
as successful as he is, he doesn't really have a lot of huge crossover pop hits that a mainstream audience is going to know. And even the biggest ones, songs like Humble, don't translate to the Super Bowl that same kind of way. That's not the kind of energy those songs have. Right.
But what I really loved about it was that the thing we were all watching for, he acknowledged very early and almost teased you like he wasn't going to do Not Like Us in saying that I want to do everyone's favorite song, but, they like to sue.
Yeah, so taking shots at Drake right there.
So he makes you think for a few minutes, oh, wait, is he not going to do it? Maybe he's not going to do it. No, he's definitely going to do it. And now this means he's going to do it, and he's going to go all the way, and he doesn't care. Well, turns out somebody cares because this is how it ended up playing out.
Waka got a weird case, why I see around certified lover boy, certified.
Still got the big crowd-pleasing moment of everybody getting to go A minor, but you could always get away with that because that was double entendre, right? So there's a legal defense for that. There's no defense for just flat out referring to Drake as a certified pedophile.
Especially
and that's why,
when he started that, he did the say Drake and looked right into the camera and gave this smirky grin.
So that
he
was
knew
his
what he
win.
was doing.
So that was his win, right? Because he made Drake, or at least Drake's lawyers, sit on the edge of their seat when he looked right into camera and said, say Drake. And they're like, oh my gosh, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. And then he didn't do it.
And then he didn't. But we all knew what it was. And that was his way of, I did it, but you can't do anything to me about it because I didn't really do it.
Right.
And then he brought Drake's exes out.
Yeah, and then to have SZA and Serena. I mean, SZA, we expected, and we know that that's an ex of Drake's, but Serena was like the icing on the cake. Like, damn, you are really, really spiking the football on him right now. Yeah. So
he won.
He won. But I think it's a win-win in that he got his little jab at Drake without risk of lawsuit, and Fox and the NFL escaped any risk of lawsuit because the word wasn't used, even though Drake had kind of put everyone on notice when he filed the defamation suit against Universal Music Group, saying he basically accused Universal Music Group of being in bed with the NFL, colluding to get Kendrick.
Everybody,
on
the NFL is, the Spotify is, Universal Music Group.
Sue everybody.
Everyone's out to get Drake, who's in Australia, and you know he watched this. If he didn't watch it live, because it would have been Monday morning in Australia.
I always think that's weird. Don't you always think about that for the rest of the world?
Super Bowl Monday?
We have Super Bowl Sunday. We just accept it for that. But in Australia, places like that, it's on Monday morning, like when you got to go to work.
Even if they care to watch it, American football isn't huge around the world, but I think especially the halftime show, if you have a big international artist, they will watch it. But yeah, it's 9 a.m. on a Monday. Let's watch.
Think of all the incredible acts that they missed at the Super Bowl down in Australia because they were going to work.
And especially in the days before YouTube and even before you could tape it off,
Yeah, it used to be like you tuned into the game and you would see the performance at halftime. Otherwise, you weren't going to see it. I mean, if you were fortunate enough to record it on your VCR, then I guess you could have that.
You didn't need to. We're going to talk some about the checkered past of the halftime show. And
for a long time, you didn't need
it was literally just there as a bathroom break. That's what it was there for. Super Bowl started in '67. It took them almost 30 years to figure out, hey, we could do something with the halftime.
And we could actually have some music that people really tune in for.
It was marching bands for most of the time. It was this act called Up
with People.
That was.
Don't you dare disparage Up with People, Eric.
Really? You're an Up with People stan?
Why wouldn't I be Up with People?
Up with People, if you don't know what it is, how would you even describe it? It was
somewhere between
like really happy kids.
Happy, like a choir of really happy kids. The kind of kids that, I know this isn't going to be popular, the kind of kids that used to get bullied.
Yeah.
Right? Not saying that it's okay to do that, but back in the day, that's what would have happened.
It was like, come on, everybody, we're going to sing. It was like that. And they did that for decades. The very first celebrity to ever appear was at the first Super Bowl, Carol Channing, the actress and singer.
Summertime!
Yeah. She was middle-aged in the 60s. She was like in her 50s then. So from basically up until the 90s, they squandered that, which is so sad because think if they had done the halftime show in the 70s like it is now, you could have had peak era Elton John, Bee Gees,
the funny thing
Eagles,
is, a lot of those acts we eventually did get as, legacy acts later.
Picture Elton John doing handstands on the piano in 1976. Like, that would have been so spectacular. But nope, we got none of that.
Nope. Missed opportunities.
The first kind of big...
But I will say this. They might not have been able to get those artists because really the Super Bowl wasn't what it is now. Like, it wasn't Super Bowl I. It wasn't like they had billions of viewers around the world.
Yeah, it was just another game, basically.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No offense to the Green Bay Packers.
Right.
Who won Super Bowl I.
The first
trivia
contemporary pop act, I like that, to perform in 1991 was New Kids on the Block. But even then, so they used to have this theme for the halftime show. And that actually lasted. I was shocked. I looked this up.
I don't recall that.
There were always kind of a theme every year, and this lasted up until the early 2000s, actually. So the theme that year was a Disney thing because Disney was producing it, and so New Kids did like 2 songs, and then they had all these children choirs singing like "It's a Small World" because the Gulf War had just happened. It was really awkward and weird, and New Kids only performed like 2 songs. 92, and this one sort of changed things, but not because of the halftime show itself. It was themed for the Winter Olympics that year. So it's, when you think of snow and artists performing in the cold, who do you think of? Gloria Estefan.
Oh, wait a second.
She performed with Dorothy Hamill and Brian Boitano, figure skaters. So they
was this in Minnesota?
I think it was, yes.
I was at this Super Bowl.
Wait, what?
It was the first Super Bowl.
I like you don't remember it and you were there.
No, it's true. I mean, I remember it being like, oh, Gloria Estefan, that'd be cool. And then there was this skating thing, and being in the stadium, I missed some of the PA, so I couldn't understand what exactly was going on.
Why is Brian Boitano down there?
Why are these figure skaters? I don't even know if I knew it was Brian Boitano. Yeah. And I was like, why are they out there with Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine? What is happening?
It was a tribute to the Winter Olympics. That was the theme that year. And it was such a misguided decision. And the halftime show, like we said, it was mostly a bathroom break. And so in 1992, as Gloria Estefan's doing her thing with Dorothy Hamill, over on Fox, In Living Color
Ah,
decided to air a 15-minute special episode. Like, hey, don't watch that crap. Flip over and watch us. Yeah, it was
yes.
counter-programming because people were like, we actually do kind of want to be entertained during the halftime show. And it did really, really well. And of course, the NFL was like, why are we giving away these viewers?
Right.
Because In Living Color transformed the halftime show because they
I missed that too. God, I was there. I missed
Oh,
what
yeah.
Gloria was doing, and I missed the In Living Color
Yeah.
because I was actually at the game.
I think they did like a Men on Film thing with Damon Wayans and David Allen Greer. It was funny. I remember watching that and not the halftime show. That's why I don't remember the figure skating thing. So by no coincidence, the next year in '93, Michael Jackson headlines the halftime show.
I do remember that, and I remember thinking,
That one.
man, I missed the Super Bowl. I screwed up by 1 year. Really wanted to be
If
there.
you'd gone to that one.
Right.
Yeah, that was the game changer. It still took a few years after that. They kept their themes. That was the 1 year they did not have a theme because Michael Jackson is his own theme.
His own theme, right?
And if you go back and watch that, I just rewatched it just to refresh. It really is. You can clock it. It's 90 seconds, the first minute and a half.
Of a
After he
pause.
comes on stage, he just stands there.
He just stood there. I remember.
didn't
sitting there,
move. It looked like a statue.
Glasses on,
Right. And they had some fake out Michaels.
his
They had
military thing on.
they had these big screens going in the corner with videos of Michael that were shot for it, where he like spins around and flies up, and then it looked like Michael popping up on top of the screen, but it was an impersonator. And they did a couple of those, and you're like, "Where's the real Michael?" And then he launches up out of the stage and just stands still for a minute and a half.
Which
Did
nobody
nothing.
would do these days because it's precious time, right? You're only out there for 14 minutes or so, and it probably was even less back then. But that was part of the show of Michael Jackson was you just marveled at, wow, these people are losing their minds. And it was sort of the Elvis thing, right? And that's why Michael did it, was to show, look how huge of a star I am.
Right.
But yeah, that's one way to spend the first 90 seconds of
Just
your
standing there, just
limited
being
time.
like, I literally don't have to do anything, and people will lose their minds, and they did.
I
And
don't think anybody's done that since.
no, I don't think you'd give up a minute and a half just to stand.
I mean, think about it. Beyonce probably could have,
She could have.
but why waste the time?
She did stand for a little while in hers. She was kind of in the middle, just like swirling smoke around her and just being Beyonce,
Right.
but not for a minute and a half. Then they kept the themes going. They went back to it again. Like they didn't learn right away to, hey, do more of that. Some of the themes in the years after that were the tribute to country music. Okay, they had Clint Black and the Judds, not bad. Tribute to salsa, tribute to Motown with Boyz II Men and the Temptations. The Blues Brothers with John Goodman and Dan Aykroyd and ZZ Top.
Why did they do this?
I don't know.
Is it for promotional purposes? They just figured like you had,
Maybe.
in order to promote it, you had to be able to say to people, this is what you're going to see. And it's like they didn't think it was enough to say, this artist is going to perform. That wasn't going to get viewers. We had to tell them, we got to market it better. We got to package this thing.
They already knew that with Michael Jackson. That's why I don't understand how they didn't learn. The weirdest one was in 1995, and I don't remember this from the time, but I rewatched it, and holy crap. It was Indiana Jones and like the Temple of the Forbidden Eye or something like that was a theme, and they had actors dressed as Indy and Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark parachute into a temple and steal some object, and they're racing around.
This
and
had to be an
dialogue.
integration with the studio.
No, there was no Indiana Jones movie in 95. I think Disney produced it. But then the weirdest thing is they have all this going on in this actor, and they're trying to have a plot line going, but you also had Patti LaBelle and Tony Bennett singing. And so Patti LaBelle does New Attitude, and then she and Tony did Elton John's Can You Feel the Love Tonight for zero reason.
That was the halftime show in 95?
Yes.
Wait, 95 was in...
Arturo Sandoval performed, Cuban jazz trumpeter.
Was 95 in Phoenix? No.
I don't remember where it was.
That was
but
93.
But why?
Huh.
Why would you do that? And in 96, they started to, again, get it right a bit. It was technically a tribute, another Motown tribute, because they loved doing those back then, but to the Supremes, because it was Diana Ross doing the halftime show.
Okay.
She did a good one. She did one of the most iconic moments to this day anybody ever did. When her set was done, do you remember this? The middle of the stage doubled as a landing pad, and a helicopter came in. And Diana Ross went up and was waving, I love you, goodbye.
Yes,
And they had little
yes.
harnesses to put her hands in so she didn't fall out. And she sat on the edge of the helicopter
Yes,
as it
that's
flew
right.
her out of the stadium. Nobody's ever done that since. Like that was
That's pretty big.
That was a baller move.
That's going big. There you
She
go.
landed a helicopter in the middle of the field and
Go
took off.
big in order to go home.
Exactly.
Right.
Go big
How-
and go home. Most of them through the 90s, most of them kind of sucked, if I'm being honest.
Hmm.
MTV started producing a couple. They did
That's right.
2001. They did the show that either you love this or you hate it. It was Aerosmith, NSYNC, Britney
And Britney
Spears,
Spears.
Nelly, and Mary J. Blige.
I just remember watching on it's just a mashup of. It really is that it had to be that they just felt like they can't rely on one artist. They just
Right.
didn't think that one artist would be enough to, and maybe there's something to that, right? Because even now when they announce the artist, everybody wants to know, who's going to be with them? Who's going to be with them? No matter how big they are. When Rihanna was doing it, it was like, who's going to come out with her? Who's going to come out with her? Like,
And nobody did.
and nobody did. And even Beyonce's gone through that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess there is. That's still just something that they don't trust. There's too much on the line to just say, here's this artist.
But what's
That's it.
funny is when you look at the best ones, like objectively the best ones, it's almost always a single artist. Because when you have too many people popping in, it kind of dilutes the headliner a bit.
Right.
And then it becomes the stunt of who else is going to show up, as opposed to this person just putting on a show.
Right. If you give them a chance to just put on that show. And I think that's a good time. This makes a good time for us to talk about some of those people who nailed it.
Yeah. You and I are both in agreement on who the
We're
best
in
one is.
agreement.
And it's
And by
not
the way-
just our opinion. It's not our bias.
No, and I think, there are a lot of people who are not massive Prince fans who will tell you that watching that, it's not just Prince's artistry, which would be enough on any given Sunday.
It would be one of the great ones just because he was a great performer, a great musician. And I always do say, to be fair to everyone else, there was an element to his that could not be replicated for anybody else.
Mother Nature.
When he did it in 2007, it was in Miami, and there was a giant downpour, one of those just big, heavy South Florida rains. And Prince famously told the director, "Can you make it rain harder?" Because they were very concerned, one, about being electrocuted. Prince was in his high heels. His dancers were in stilettos, 8-inch stiletto heels, on basically like Mylar, which was slick
Yeah.
in a dry condition. Now it's soaking wet. And he goes out and he performs and just tears it up, as he did. But the fates aligning that his signature song is Purple Rain. They have these purple lights, this downpour, and him doing that in the rain.
It's just
You can't top that.
it's all so cinematic. Like you would have to go like, did they seed the clouds or something? Because what
Right.
it was just too perfect, but it really was visually incredible. And of course he sounded
Of
like
course.
he always does. But
And I watched an interview with Don Mischer, who was the director of that performance, said that one of the things that kind of elevated it was because obviously the lights that they're lighting everything with get super hot. So he said as the rain was coming down and hitting the lights, it was steaming.
and this,
So it created this steam around the stage, and then the raindrops on the camera gave it this prismatic thing where the light was shooting through it. And he's like, it was just majestic. It's really hard for anybody to compete with that.
right.
And
So-
maybe if Purple Rain wasn't his song, it still would have been a great performance. But all these things together, to me, it makes it hard for anybody else to compete with that.
Yeah. I would agree.
I think Rihanna's was cool because the thing it's most noted for was her revealing her pregnancy,
Right.
and those floating platforms were really, really cool. I know that's a dumb thing, but it looked so neat.
I've honestly forgotten the floating platforms.
that's how she came in.
All I see is the vision of her returning and revealing, and everybody going, "Is she pregnant?" Like everyone asked in unison, "Is she pregnant?" So I just thought that's. I don't know if that was the plan going in. If that's
It
what,
definitely was.
but
But she was very pregnant by that point. She had hidden that. And to use the Super Bowl halftime show to announce your pregnancy, that was such
and the
a
fact that
boss
she was
move.
able to keep it under wraps up until that.
Literally.
Yeah, exactly.
What's some other good ones? I think Lady Gaga in 2017. Remember, she started with a pre-tape segment where she jumped off the roof and then came like spidering down like Tom Cruise.
Yeah. She loves the NFL because she just keeps doing everything. Like if they call, she's in.
Yeah, this year she was there. She will show up, which is, you wouldn't associate her with that necessarily.
Bet she'd be a
But-
big football fan, but
Right.
yeah, she seems like she was a theater kid.
One of the,
You can be both.
you can be both. An infamous win also in 2015. Remember when Katy Perry did it? And I think she did a good show. She did her big pop spectacle and costume changes, and she came in riding a giant like lion marionette
Right.
thing. But the viral moment, remember Left
Is
Shark?
the shark. Right.
And I just went back and rewatched that because everybody thought when she was dancing to, I think it was Teenage Dream, or I don't know. But she had left shark and right shark. It was guys in costumes dressed as sharks. And left shark didn't quite nail the choreography. It was just sort of flailing. But if you go back and watch it, and I saw an interview with the guy who was left shark. Yeah, his name's Brian Gaw. He's like, if you watch it, it wasn't really that off. And it really wasn't. Most of it, he had the choreography.
There were just a few steps he missed.
There's one part, the little part that went viral, where the right shark is doing the claps and all this stuff, and he's just sort of swinging his little flippers around and flailing. And he said he didn't even know about it until the next day, because then he looked at his phone and like, what are all these messages? Like, what has happened?
Man, listen, everybody makes history in their own way.
Right.
You just happen to be on stage at the Super Bowl.
That's not the best time to do something like that.
Forget your steps.
Bruno Mars, his was weird in 2014 just because he'd only been around about 4 years at that point.
And they didn't, and there's another case where they're like, nope, we can't trust just Bruno Mars.
But
let's randomly bring in the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
That was still, I don't understand that choice. Those things don't really go together. I mean, it worked in the halftime show, and Bruno, played drums and got
I thought
into
it was, by the way, again, just saying as a fact, not bragging here, but I was at that Super Bowl as well.
How many have you been to?
It's the only two I've been to. And they were 30 years apart. But yes, I went 30 years, 25 years, something like that. Anyway.
Now we're trying to do math.
20
That's
years
sad.
apart.
Because now Bruno's it's been 10 years ago, 11 years ago since his performance.
Right, they were 20 years apart. But I remember being at this one and going like, I actually thought Bruno was doing a good job.
He's a good performer. He's an entertainer. That is his thing.
That it didn't need someone else. And then suddenly the Chili Peppers there, and everyone turned around and were like, is that the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Why are they here? What? Okay, all right, let's just go along with this.
But Bruno only had 2 albums at that point.
Yeah, I understand why
he had
they did
a lot of hits, and enough he could have done 14 minutes of show. But it's weird to see an artist that new get the halftime show.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he could do it again now. He's got more hits and more seasoned performer.
Yeah,
but,
there's a guy they could definitely go back to.
Madonna,
sure.
I liked Madonna. Some people hated it. There were some awkward moments to it, like Madonna
as you would
does.
expect.
And there wound up being, remember the thing where MIA, the rapper, flipped off the camera.
Yes.
And FCC complains, and everyone was upset. Some bad ones. We're gonna call out some bad ones.
Let's do it. I mean, come on, whatever.
Let's do it.
It's everything's relative. We're just talking. We're not saying that they're bad performers.
Of course not.
We're saying that relative to Super Bowl halftime performances,
you don't
were less.
You don't get there if you're not a good artist. But sometimes they get there and it's not their best performance. The Who, I think the Who really.
The Who was the one.
Weren't good.
The Who was the one where everyone went, maybe we should stop with the
old acts, because
old classic.
We're gonna talk about Janet. We'll probably finish talking about that one. But after Janet, they went so hard the other way. The next year was Paul McCartney, then the Rolling Stones. Then you had Prince, Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, all great performers, but most of them a lot safer.
And honestly, Prince was probably the riskiest.
Yeah.
They thought, I'm sure, going in of those. The rest of them were like,
Tom Petty's just going to get up there and sing American Girl.
These are just older rockin' dudes, white dudes who are going to come out and just play their music.
Yeah,
That's it. No one's going to do anything controversial.
Then the Who showed up in 2010 and just sounded bad. That was the sad part. Roger Daltrey's voice was bad.
Yeah, and you know what? And his voice, it was really bad. I remember thinking, God, are they really done? And Daltrey's sounded better since then.
Yeah.
It's just, they had an off day.
They were really bad. And they had said apparently they had never watched the halftime show before. I don't know if they knew just how big a deal it was or how many people were going to watch. It was not their best night.
Yeah.
And then again, they decided to course correct the same way they overreacted to Janet. They overreacted to this. And like, we have to go younger and newer and fresher. The next year, they got the Black Eyed Peas. And I get why they would get them.
It was newer. It was fresher.
It was not better.
It was not better.
I just rewatched that one, and I feel a little bad for them. Partly, I think it's the mix, because the music's really low when you watch it now, and their voices are way too high. will.i.am was very heavily auto-tuned on purpose, because they were going for that whole robot aesthetic kind of thing. He was trying to sound mechanical. But when you have an auto-tuned voice singing live with the music pulled down, doesn't sound good. And then they brought Slash out, and Fergie tried to sing Sweet Child of Mine and do her Axl Rose moves, and it just came off awkward and confusing.
It all felt like they were trying really hard. And I think that you're right. That's probably unfair because of the mix, that it came across that way for parts of it.
Right.
And then there are other parts where they were clearly just trying.
It just wasn't that great, honestly.
Swing and a miss. That's all right.
Other good ones. Well, bad ones still. Maroon 5. I don't know specifically why that didn't work, but it just didn't. I mean, they performed. They didn't sound necessarily bad. They have.
I'm not going to say anything bad about it. I'm just going to say that when it was over, I was just like,
that happened.
Exactly. It's just like, well, that happened. Like there was nothing that I was going to talk about the next day.
Like you almost, if you're not going to be great, you almost want to be spectacularly bad. Because you're more memorable. Like people remember the Black Eyed Peas.
Make them remember you.
Yeah,
right.
You forget Maroon 5 even did it. I remember the thing when Adam Levine started taking his shirt off and started stripping. I know it was meant to be hot. And I was watching the Super Bowl that year.
Hey, it's just not for you, Eric. All right.
No.
So what?
No.
So you're not into Adam Levine.
I watched that with women who admit finding Adam Levine attractive, and they were like, "Oh, this is off-putting." They're like, "This is not hot." It just seemed like he was trying too hard. I don't know. Justin Timberlake's was a little stiff. Didn't really.
And it was also
land.
just awkward. There's like the elephant in the room. Like, why is he back here after the whole Janet thing?
Right. Let's talk about the
Janet. That's to me was the awkward thing about Justin. And the whole thing was a little off.
Yeah. I rewatched that one too. I had not seen the actual entire Janet halftime show in probably 20 years. And I think I've forgotten she only performed 2 songs.
Before that happened?
This. Yeah, so it starts because this is when they were still just loading it down with guest performers, because this was the last one MTV did. Obviously, they weren't asked back after the wardrobe malfunction. The first one MTV did was the one with Aerosmith, NSYNC, Britney Spears, all that. So I think MTV thought the hodgepodgey mishmash of acts would work.
Right.
The only time they didn't do it, when U2 in 2002 did it, they did a tribute to 9/11. You don't bring guests for that.
Yeah.
That was a somber, powerful one. So this Janet came out and she did All For You, which was only a couple years old at that point. Then Diddy came out, did Bad Boy for Life. Then they did, the whole thing is so awkward.
Wow. I
really
totally
doesn't play
forgot
well.
that.
Yeah, so Diddy's doing that. And then they start doing Mickey by Tony Basil, but saying Diddy instead of Mickey, like, oh, Diddy, you're so fine. Then the dancers start saying, oh, Nelly, you're so fine. Nelly comes out and does Hot in Here. All of it's completely lip synced because Nelly was not even trying.
Right.
There's a whole part during his, not even the backing, like the chorus vocals, but his lead rap verse, he just pulls the mic away and just stops singing, but the track's still going. And also, one of the cheerleaders and the Mickey cheerleaders rips her clothes off. No wardrobe malfunction there.
Right.
But that was already going on in this show. Then Kid Rock comes out. See, you don't remember any of this.
Oh my gosh, I do not remember any of that.
Because the boob erased all the rest of it. We forgot. Kid Rock comes out and does Ba With Da Ba and Cowboy. And the one thing I'll give Kid Rock there, he actually performed live. Like he had a full band. Right. His mic was hot. He was singing. The others didn't. And then after Kid Rock, Janet comes back and does Rhythm Nation. And then Justin Timberlake pops up and does his song Rock Your Body. And at the end is where he says, better have you naked by the end of this song. And he ripped the costume part off. And that ended Janet Jackson's career. Yeah. It transformed the halftime show. But yeah, you're right. Justin got invited back. He's the one who pulled it off.
Yeah. He pulled it off, but she knew that it was going to happen.
I don't think she thought the whole thing was going to come off. That's what they always said is, because remember there was that red
that's right. There was
fabric underneath it that was
right.
supposed to, like the leather part was going to come off.
Right.
But I think the red part was supposed to stay. And for everybody that thinks it was deliberate, again, when you go back and watch it now, and you can pause it and freeze frame it, the look of shock and horror on her face.
Genuinely.
And his face. It takes him a second to realize, and he like gives her this sort of stunned look. I don't think they intended for that to happen. No. Because what would be the point? There's being shocking and provocative, which should have been
but neither of them were
part of it.
Right. But neither of them were that kind of artist that would intentionally.
You're not going to sabotage the halftime show.
Honestly, now that you go through everyone who was on stage and everything they were doing, we're kind of lucky that's the only thing that happened. So much could have gone wrong.
I was thinking that.
And should have gone wrong.
Think of the headlines of all those people last year. Janet got in trouble with her fans for saying Kamala Harris wasn't really black, is what she had heard.
Right.
Diddy's Diddy. Nelly played at the inauguration, and other people got mad at him for that.
Right.
Justin Timberlake got his DUI. Kid Rock is just Kid Rock. He didn't really do anything in particular last year, but he's just he's a troll. That's his thing. It's like 50 Cent. That's the persona at this point. I was like, man, what a stacked lineup of people that 20 years later.
Honestly, I will say it's probably the one that you should go back and watch You should go back and find that one because there's a lot more.
And it was introed by Jessica Simpson. What?
Wow.
But I think
hell of a swan song for MTV.
Yeah, no kidding. And honestly, that's around the time they just stopped showing music at all. Maybe it not only ended Janet's career, it ended MTV as music television.
We got to rethink what we're doing here, guys.
I know. But I say bring Janet back.
Yes.
She is still a performer.
Still do
She's
it.
Still got the catalog. She deserves a do-over.
And she deserves a do-over without the parade of guests that were taking away from her time anyway.
Right.
Have her come back and do her hits.
Because she is the
you want to
perfect
please
artist.
everybody, there you go.
Yeah.
It will be such, they will get, NFL and Rock Nation will get such a, they'll get so much goodwill.
There'll be so much press about it.
Yeah.
People will
they're
watch
going to
it
get
out of
all the press
curiosity.
that they want. They should just do it. I
I
don't know.
She's a legend. Like I said, she still can perform. I think
Has Janet? She must have been talked about. Must have spoken about this. Like, would she do it?
I don't know if she said that she would do it. She was asked when Justin Timberlake did it, and she's never said anything bad about Justin.
Right.
Janet, for the most part, tries to stay out of anything controversial.
Yeah.
I mean,
up until last year.
But even that, I don't know.
Wasn't intentional.
It wasn't like a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they should give Janet a go. And I think they have skewed a bit younger in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
But you still had, in 2020, Shakira and Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez is not that much younger than Janet Jackson.
They can
still perform.
They can certainly do it. They've gone across the spectrum with young and old and male performers and female. They can absolutely do it. They could do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Make it happen.
I don't know if Janet would want to. Maybe it brings it all back up again. But
I mean, like you said, she didn't really get to perform at the Super Bowl.
No, she got 2 songs and then a featured thing on Justin Timberlake's song.
Right. Exactly. If they didn't do the Timberlake song, everything would have been fine.
When I was watching it again, it's like, when you watch a video of something tragic, there's a part when she finishes Rhythm Nation, she kind of like stares at the camera and strikes a pose and like everybody freezes and everyone's cheering and then Justin pops up. You're like, just stop there.
Here it comes.
Janet, just stop right there. Just stop at Rhythm Nation.
It's like watching a horror movie and you start going like this.
Like, he's right behind you. And literally Justin was right behind her. So.
All right. So our bottom line is bring back Janet.
Justice for Janet.
Justice for Janet. Prince still
will always be our favorite.
The best ever. Yeah. Kendrick.
I like
awesome. Kendrick was great, man.
It was something different.
Really great and something for everyone to tune in for. He played up to it. He did the song that everybody wanted to hear, but he also did his thing and presented some great art out there.
Yeah.
Visual masterpiece. So
before we go, who do you think still needs to do it? Who are the obvious choices next couple of years?
I will tell you, and I don't know, they can't do it now, but if you had said 10 years ago, or even 6 years ago, who's gonna do the Super Bowl first, Drake or Kendrick Lamar?
Kendrick's done it multiple times.
Yeah, he's been there multiple times, but you would have easily said Drake's gonna be there. And now he isn't, and I don't know how they would go
Drake
back
will
to
never do it.
So he's never going to do it now.
I don't know if a really obvious one would be Taylor Swift, who's got the catalog, she's got the fans, she's a well-known live performer.
I feel like
known for a live show.
Taylor's going to end up being sort of like a legacy. But by the time she does it, it's going to be
she'll be in her
nostalgic.
50s.
Right, exactly.
Because now
like Taylor Swift,
after getting booed at the game this weekend, and now her boyfriend lost and may be done with the NFL.
Time's got to pass.
I think she's not going to do it anytime too soon.
Maybe on for her and Travis's 10th anniversary. They go back.
Does it and brings him out.
Right.
Maybe
bring
if he gets
him
in
out
the Hall
on
of Fame,
stage.
they do that. I'm trying to think who else right now, like contemporary artists, are big enough. The Weeknd has already done it. Ariana Grande could do it.
Yes.
I think she'd be a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan Wallen, they've never really had a country headliner. They did the country show back in the 90s. They could have had Garth Brooks do it and would have been huge back in the day.
Shocking to me that Garth Brooks
I
didn't
think
do it.
Tim McGraw or Kenny Chesney could have done it in the 2000s. They didn't.
Yeah, there are definitely country artists they could do it with now. By the way, you know who should do it? Chris Stapleton.
Oh, that'd be great.
Chris Stapleton should 100% do it.
He would be amazing.
And he's already got a connection with the league. He did the Monday Night Football theme for ESPN. But yeah, he would be amazing. Huh.
I know. I'm like trying to think, and people back in the day, I think people that could have been really good, maybe they still could, but the ships maybe sailed. Like Bon Jovi, I think would have killed it with that audience doing "Living on a Prayer." They would have. That would have
Pearl
been
Jam?
spectacular. Pearl Jam, they hated being mainstream so much. They might
Yeah.
have done it. I don't know, but
I mean, you can go through the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Yeah.
people, and you can easily pick someone. But I will say this: I know this for a fact from certain. I'm not going to say, but from certain network executives that because it changes, the Super Bowl changes every year, a different network does it. But when it comes up, if it's your network, it's your time, you want the least controversial
right.
act. You don't want to have meetings with lawyers. You don't want to have to be, thumbing through every single line of every song to make sure there's not something here that's going to get us in trouble. You want nice,
Imagine
safe.
this year, it's Fox. Donald Trump is in the crowd. You've got Kendrick Lamar performing one of the blackest Super Bowls ever with a
Someone's
possible
going, "Time
lawsuit
out,
from
time
Drake.
out."
They're just like, oh no, what has happened? What has happened?
But we haven't seen the numbers yet, but I'm sure, I would imagine viewership was, although people didn't care about the game as much because they hated the fact that the Chiefs are back again. But
And the score by halftime, it was just not even worth watching anymore.
Right.
But anyway,
all right.
so next year, who I don't know. I don't know who's going to do it next year.
I don't know. I'm not even going to venture a guess but I will say I'm putting my hat in the ring officially for Chris Stapleton to do it.
That'd be a good one. That would be a really fun one.
Yeah. Not that anybody cares what I have to say.
I do.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
And hopefully you guys do just a little bit.
Little bit.
We will see you next week. Get to the